Welcome to A Married Perspective. I'm Judge Derwin L coming to you from the Fraser History Museum. I have the pleasure of being in this place today with my friend, the president, Andy Treinen. Mr. Treinen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Derwin. And if you'd have told me I was going to be the president of a history museum 5 years ago, I'd have told you that you were crazy.
And that's one of the things we're probably going to talk about a little bit. We've known each other for several years. We've had a lot of history with one another. Before we get into your position now, let's talk a little bit about how you got to the city of Louisville. So tell me what brought you to Louisville?
Yeah, my job for 25 years was in television. I worked in as a sports reporter for 12 years in Cincinnati, doing normal sports reporting during a newscast, and then did some play-by-play for the University of Cincinnati back in the Bob Huggins, Rick Minter era.
I know all about Bob Huggins.
The Kenyon Martin years and Melvin Levitt and all those great teams. They'd wear the black hoods in and they were the bad guys. And, some great rivalries with Louisville through those years. So anyway, I did sports in Cincinnati, and then they turned me into a news guy. I took a morning job in Milwaukee for 3 years, and then we wanted to get back closer to the Midwest and started looking for work and got a job doing the morning show at WHS 11. So that's when we first met. My kids were in a school where your kids were going to school,
right.
And we started coaching basketball together
right.
10 years ago, and,
right.
and we've been friends ever since. So it's great to be on your show. I did a little research on that when I was writing for our weekly virtual Fraser magazine about this broadcast that ends up on there sometimes. So 10 years we've been friends, buddy.
We have been, and I truly appreciate you being on here today. But our friendship goes a lot deeper than just casual conversation back and forth. We've had a lot of things to do together. Like we said, our kids went to Stouffer Elementary School together. Let's talk a little bit about basketball. I know you're a sports guy. You're a coach. Tell me this. You coached with me for a few years. We won a few championships. What did coaching do for you? I know what it meant to me. What did coaching do for you, though?
Well, I mean, and I'm still a coach. I coach a different sport now. I coach girls lacrosse, of all things. Mm-hmm. But I love coaching. It's what I love about my job now. I love putting teams together and making people work, inspiring people to work towards a common goal. And I spent more time when we were coaching that team together. I spent more time thinking about that than I did my job every day, because I love being around young people. They give me incredible energy. They keep me young. They inspire me. And I think some of the most influential people in my life have been coaches. So to have the opportunity to coach with you, who played for Denny Crum, who coached with John Wooden, and learned phrases like "be quick but don't hurry" that started with John Wooden,
right.
And now I'm saying them maybe in another sport,
right?
But that's pretty cool. So I love coaching, and I love coaching with you.
Did you ever stay in touch with any of the kids that you coached after they stopped playing for you?
Oh, no question, and that's one of the things that every coach really enjoys. And the kids we were coaching were 4th and 5th grade.
Right.
The really good ones might have got there in the 3rd grade. And so they come back. When I was doing a morning show over at WHS 11, one of the young men came back. He's a guest on my show, and he's like, "Hey, Coach Treinen, he's a grown man. He's 20 years old, He's a grown man on my show." So I love it when they come back. And you and I went and saw Shelby Calhoun
right.
recently play, someone who we coach, and she's going to play college basketball at Virginia Tech. That's very gratifying to see young people have success, and even more gratifying to have them, say that you were a positive influence on their life, send you a T-shirt, invite you out to see their games. I think that's really cool.
I know that, coaching for me, I think that being a lawyer, then becoming a judge was a great opportunity to be able to help people. But one of the greatest things that I have ever done outside of being a father was being a coach and knowing the influence that you could have, the things that you would say to kids and have them understand those things back then, and then they come to you years later and saying that you were right and talk about the things that you did for them to make them who they are today. So I know you and I kind of mirror one another when we talk about things like that.
Yeah, because our kids don't often come to us and say,
no,
right.
they'll do it later, but not now, especially.
Yeah, they'll come back later. And the other thing, I know your sons played football at Eastern, so you would be in a stadium as a father, and you'd go out publicly, and other kids are coming up to you from other walks of life, and hey, Coach Webb, it's just fun. It
Right.
gives you good energy, and your family's with you like, who is that? I was like, I coached this person at this school at this time.
Right.
It's just different networks in life, and that's what it's all about.
But let's go back a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your career on TV.
Okay.
I know that you and I you interviewed me for a few different interviews, whether it was with a guy from University of Kentucky, some other things that were going on in the community. I know that you were an anchor for a while, but let me ask you this. What was probably the most influential story that you ever had to cover?
Well, I've done a number, and the most satisfying ones for me are ones that stick, that have something tangible that still exists because of them. And I was at a lot of cool places, right? I covered the O.J. Simpson trial.
Was not aware of that.
Well, I wasn't supposed to. I was covering the Reds playing the Dodgers in the first round of the baseball playoffs, and the verdict came in. And my news director called, and I was a straight sports guy at the time, and said, the verdict's in, you're going.
Okay, time out. I know you want to talk about other stuff, but tell me about that, because I remember exactly where I was. I was in law school during the time when the verdict came out, and we were all in the room, and you could see two different types of reactions. So tell me how it was being out in Los Angeles.
Well, I watched that trial. Like, I worked second shift in TV at the time, so I got up in the morning, I watched the Andy Griffith show, and then I watched the OJ trial for 2 hours before I went to work. So I was very familiar with every bit of it. This was not long after the Rodney King situation, 5 years after the Rodney King situation. Correct. And I was with a photographer, and we didn't know how it was going to come out, but we knew if it didn't come out the way that it did, there could be some civil unrest, and it could have been a dangerous situation. So we went to the courtroom with kind of a plan. I love to interview people. I love to be in the middle of what's going on. One of the other stories that I covered was the racial riots in Cincinnati after they had some issues that they've made great improvements since, and I'm prayerful that we can make those same kind of positive steps forward here in Louisville. But it was one of the most bizarre days of my life. Covering the Reds game the night before, going to cover this thing, and then when you're running around, when you're working in TV, you're running to meet deadlines. You used to have to go back to the station and edit, and then you'd go out. So we worked through that whole day. The verdict came out as it did, and we went and interviewed people. We talked to people. Most of the people that were outside the courtroom at the time were happy with the verdict. And so it didn't become an unsafe situation. There was no unrest. That night, after we went back and fed our story back to a local station, my photographer and I go back to the station, and we say, we're going to go out to dinner somewhere. So they said, well, there's this cool place over in Beverly Hills. So we're driving through Beverly Hills, and we see Nicole Brown Simpson's sister standing on the corner with a sign, and there's a little mini protest with candlelight vigil. I guess it was a candlelight vigil, and it was just one of those days where it was crazy. And then we go to this restaurant to have a meal, and Seal, the musical performer Seal, is in the audience, and they ask him to come up and do a couple of songs. And so I'm sitting there with my photographer. I'm like, what just happened in the last 24 hours? We were here to cover a baseball game. And then all these sequences that become lifelong memories after that. So anyway, that was a long way of getting back to the question about my most influential or one of the greatest stories that I told. When I was at WHS 11, I got these mail packets from a guy named Jim Lundgaard. He's a local guy. He's a Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient. He said that Louisville's taken down the Vietnam Memorial. It used to be at the Belvedere. It's not there anymore. He was a part of getting it put up. And so I started looking into it, and then I start checking, and it's starting to check out. It's like there is no memorial there anymore. He shows me pictures. I see a video of then, before Senator McConnell was a senator, he had another political office in town, but he was there when it was, when this original Vietnam Memorial was put up. A big deal, but it didn't exist anymore. Nobody in the city could tell us where it went. So I started doing an investigative story around it, and we interviewed him. The city then said, okay, well, we're going to start looking into it. We went to all these different public works areas around town. There used to be a flag that was from Bowman Field that the post was lost as well. Long story short, long story even longer, I guess, the city made a mistake, and nobody could say when and how it came down. And so they decided to put up a new Vietnam Memorial. And if you drive past the Big Four Bridge, there's a big American flag. At the bottom of that American flag is the Vietnam Memorial. And I had a hand in getting that put up. And when that went up, my wife was working at Brown-Forman at the time. Jim Lundgaard, he didn't know this was going to happen. We brought in a bunch of guys who were blown up in the boat with him in Vietnam that he hadn't seen in 12 years, and called him up to stage when this thing happened, when the new memorial was put up. So we're friends still today. He calls me once every couple of weeks, and when I drive to work every day to the Fraser History Museum, I see that flag there and I see that memorial and know that I had a small part in putting it up. So that's why I led this with to have something tangible.
Right.
That means you had some sort of impact. Because sometimes stories come and they go and somebody talks about other things the next day. So that one stuck.
Well, you know, I would tell you this, side note, it's great to be in the room with the president because we just got the sign saying there's 7 minutes to go before we have to leave, but I'm going to assume since you're the president, we can stay a little bit longer. So
let me text somebody. We're good. We can stay as long as we like.
Well, you know, as a former athlete and also knowing a lot of former players, we always talk about the time when we knew it was time to hang things up. When it was time to go on to the next career, retire from this to do something else. You were in news for 20 years.
25.
When did you know it was time to put your shoes up, untie your shoes, put the shoes up, and move on to something else?
About a year before I left. And my wife knew. We talked about it. You know, I prayed on it. I had a great run. I loved it. It was wonderful. I knew I didn't want to do it for 10 more years, 20 more years, and I knew I wanted to work that long. I knew I didn't want to go to another market and chase another TV job. I stopped learning. You know, I was doing a lot of teaching, but I stopped learning, and that's a side of your brain that really I found since I've been in this job keeps you alive and keeps you driving to continue to learn. So I started networking, meeting with people while I still had that job. And then in late winter, WHS came to me and they said, hey, you know, talk about your contract renewal, you know, let's you know, renew. And I said, you know what, I don't think I'm going to. And they were wonderful, but they were like, yeah, well, you know, think about it, you know, come back. And I was talking to people. I didn't have a job, so you know, it's kind of like the Cape. I took a jump off the cliff and I didn't have a cape on, but I was pretty confident that I was going to land somewhere. So even when I agreed to work through the May ratings period, important time in television for ratings and all those things, and I had wonderful co-anchors. Had a great time with Renee Murphy, Rachel Platt, and Kelsey Starks as my co-anchors in my 9 years doing the morning show there. And it was difficult to leave the people because I loved being a part of their lives every morning, but I didn't love the job anymore. So the end of the school year came, the end of the ratings period came, and I left, and I didn't know where I was going to land. I was talking to some people, I was networking. That summer, it worked out. I mean, I'm so blessed. My kids took off school, I took off. My wife had several jobs for me to work around the house, and I did some jobs around the house, and I'm interviewing people, talking to about different opportunities, and then I got the opportunity. I got a phone call from Penny Peebler, who is my predecessor here as president of the museum, and a good friend of mine, and she said, I'd like you to consider a job at the Fraser, and I was originally hired as a director of marketing. She said, I have marketing in my background. There's some things I can teach you. I know you got PR. I know you're going to get us coverage. I know the Fraser's going to increase its profile. And I like to think that we have. I accepted the job, and I went back to work the same day the girls went back to school. So it was that glorious summer. I was home with my kids. It was the first time I wasn't working since I was 16 years old. Home with my kids for that one summer, and started back on my new job when they started back to school.
Well, tell me about the transition, because as we stated, you're the president today, but you didn't come in as president.
No.
Tell me about the transition from TV to being the marketing director.
Nor was I qualified to come in as the president. There are some common skills that will make you have a degree of success in whatever job you're in. You know, there are communication skills, collaboration, crisis management, creativity. I think there are 6 C's. There's 4 of them anyway. But those things will translate. It was my job to tell a new future employer how I could help them, and I had to prove it to them. They didn't have anything to prove to me. So I became fascinated with this, and I learned we're at a museum. We still tell stories, right? We tell stories that last even longer. We tell them through exhibits. We tell them through performances. But there was a whole business side that I had to learn. And first, I did the marketing thing exclusively for 3 years, and I was kind of, I think, Penny's, I was her counsel. She would ask me for advice on things, and was involved in the Fraser getting the designation as the official starting point of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, and a lot of those relationship things that have led to our success. So I got to learn from her on the job, and about a year and a half ago, she promoted me to vice president, and then had to take a dive into the finances. And we run 5 different businesses here, right? We're a museum store, we're a parking lot, we're a facility rental facility. We do a lot of different things that are really crucial to the business working, and we have to have multiple revenue streams coming in to make it work, because this is a 100,000 square foot facility with an LG&E bill that can get to $20,000 a month. That's a lot of admissions if you're just counting on them to pay the bills. So,
right.
So there was an awful lot to learn, and I'm still learning every day. But it is a relationship business, and we need partnerships. We're a nonprofit, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. I love people. I get energy from people. I get energy from collaborating with folks on solving problems and coming up with creative solutions. So that's natural to me.
Well, you're president now, so what is the vision of the museum now? Obviously, I'm a board member. I don't know if everyone knows this, but I'm actually a board member.
And I appreciate that.
And you've sold me, and not necessarily because of the museum, but because of you. But tell me about the museum that would make me want to come if I wasn't already a part of this.
Well, I'll tell you a couple of things, and then I'll even give you maybe a little scoop on something that's around the corner. But our brand is Where the World Meets Kentucky.
Right.
We tell stories about the culture, the industries, the people that make this state great. And this is, the Commonwealth is amazing. And we, as the mayor likes to say, we punch way above our weight as far as international prominence. People know Louisville, Kentucky because of Ali, because of bourbon, because of basketball, because of some of these things that nobody else does as well as we do them. Mm-hmm. So there are great stories to tell. So we took on that brand, Where the World Meets Kentucky. Doe Anderson was helpful to us. Todd Spencer, their president's on our board, and he's a very smart man. And so we put on these exhibits. We're in this multi-million-dollar bourbon exhibit right now. We're the official starting point of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail. That's a big deal. Mm-hmm. That gives us a brand outside of Louisville. Because Fraser History Museum doesn't mean anything to a couple in San Diego or somebody in Portland, Oregon. But the Kentucky Bourbon Trail does. People know mm-hmm. what that is. So to get that designation, the official starting point of the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, suddenly then we're in a conversation where people start looking for museums right along Louisville Slugger, where their brand is in their name, or Kentucky Derby Museum, where their brand is in their name. we have really increased our profile in the community, and we are a community-based organization. We do programming. We're not just telling history that is past. We did a program the other night. Rachel Platt, who we have hired away from WHS as well, who's a good friend, is our director of community engagement, and she does an outstanding job. But she got together a very diverse panel, and we talked about policing and social justice, and how the program is called Bridging the Divide, because we are a very divided community, and everybody's got to listen a little bit and give a little. We've got to find a way to heal, and it was a very smart and outstanding conversation. There were 200 people, and then thousands that followed on Facebook Live. So we want to mean something to people. We are diversifying who we are. We're getting into more and more communities that history museums don't generally serve. And you can only do that by telling stories about diverse communities, right? There has to be something for you here at the museum. And we've got a Kentucky music exhibit up right now that all this music that has its roots in African Americans in Kentucky is amazing, and it's educational. Our Cool Kentucky exhibit that's opening in October is going to be, it's going to be like Disney on the first floor. You're going to see a Corvette and a disco ball, and Heather French Henry's Miss America dress, and Tori Murden's The Pearl that she rode across the Atlantic is going to be here. A bunch of stuff from the old Kentucky Colonels. I mean, there's all kinds of really neat things. It's called Cool Kentucky because it's to create aha moments for people who visit the state and go, oh, I didn't know Jennifer Lawrence was from here, and George Clooney and Johnny Depp and Ali and Colonel Sanders, and all these stories all in one place. And then the goal is, and every other museum in the state is partnered with us in it. So they're going to have artifacts here, and you're going to see that Corvette, and you're going to be able to read, if you want to learn more, go to Bowling Green. If you want to learn more about bluegrass, go to the Bluegrass Museum in Owensboro, and all the local museums that we partner with here in Louisville will be represented as well. So that's a big deal. And then also in October, we're going to expand our membership in a very big way, and in a creative way, and we're gonna have families from the south side of Louisville here in the museum, and we're gonna have families from the west end here in the museum. We're gonna have families of all economic means here in the museum, and we are going to expand our membership. My goal is by 5,000 people. And that's a tease, because I'm not going to tell you exactly how we're going to do it, because I'd get in trouble.
Let me ask you this. What do you want your lasting legacy to be here at the museum?
Well, I mean, I like to think I'm just getting started.
I was going to say, I know you're just getting started.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If you could envision, 10, 15, 20 years from now, and people talk about the Fraser History Museum, and they talk about Andy Treinen, what would you want people to say about you in this place?
Well, I've said for a long time, since I've been in this, I want to expand our footprint. I want to appeal to more people. We don't have generational giving like the Speed and the Filson. They've been around for a long, long time. This museum was founded in 2004, and at the time it was an arms museum.
Right.
We didn't change our brand and what we are and what's inside of it. It became a history museum in about 2008, but they didn't really change what was in. It was still weapons in the museum. The way we tell stories now is only since 2015, really. So we're new to the game. But we're on the right track, and we are appealing to more and more people. And I want people 10, 20 years from now to consider this a cornerstone institution in the city of Louisville. And I want everybody to see themselves in the museum in one way or another. And if we do that, I feel like the success will follow.
Well, I'm going to change course just a little bit. A lot of people know you as president of the History Museum. People know you as a former anchor. And by the way, I used to watch the show every morning. I used to watch
bright and early.
Just for you. I used to watch the show. So they know you as a news anchor. They know you from being a coach. I know you as a dad more than anything. Tell me about your relationship with your kids. I know that you have kids that are athletic too. So talk to me about your relationship with your kids a little bit.
Well, I got married at 31. I wanted to be a dad my whole life before that. You know, my dad was a huge impact on my life. And my dad died early. I was 21. He was 47. So, you know, I wanted to be a dad. And you know, I'm not unlike every parent in the world. You know, I love my kids. I love doing things with them. I love inspiring them. I love them laughing at me and me laughing at them. And they're good, you know, they're good kids. They make me crazy just like all of our kids do sometimes, but they're good students. They're good in the community. They're good athletes. They're caring people. They're way smarter than I am. You know, they got that from their mom, thank God. They got a little bit of athleticism from me. They're good athletes, and I just love being around them. My oldest is heading off to Center College this year. We're Saturday night. You know, I'm glad the interview's not happening then because she's like, it's like see you later, but you know, my wife and I are going to struggle. And
that's one of the reasons
that.
why I wanted to talk to you about that, because I
yeah.
know that time is coming up. I know that my oldest just graduated from University of Louisville, and I remember taking him to college for that first time. And even though he's a kid, he's a boy, you know, there was still that relationship. But there's something different about fathers with their daughters. And knowing that you're about to embark on this new venture with her leaving the house for the first time, talk about that.
Yeah, my wife and I were sitting in bed watching something on the iPad the other day, and she's in her room playing the guitar and singing a song. You know, we looked at each other and we're like, oh my God, you know, that's not going to be, that voice is not going to be there. And I said to Wendy, because she's like, I'm not going to be able to manage this. I said, look, this is all the work that we've done is to put her in this position. It's not now to hold her back. It's to let her go fly and let her go do her thing. And, you know, it would be selfish to not let her go spread her wings and fly and be successful. And we have to give them space to make their own decisions and make their own mistakes. And God willing, they're not life-altering mistakes that they make. Feel bad for this class because they lost their senior year and all that. Now, you know, we're going to, they're like, you can carry a refrigerator in, only one parent. You can't even, we won't have that custom of going into the room and getting it set and all that, because they're going to be quarantined for 48 hours as soon as they get there and tests and all that. But, you know, and then there's a new dynamic at home, right? Because it's been Ella and Mia, the sisters have been together, and guess what? When the sisters bond against mom and dad, I'm okay with that. You know, just go ahead and bond. But now Mia is going to be the one left behind. She's active, involved in a whole lot of things. She starts cross country at 6:30 every morning now. They're doing it before school. But she's going to miss her sister, and her sister's going to miss her, and we're going to miss them, and we're probably going to, you know, we'll work through a different dynamic at home. But this is the way it's supposed to be. This is what's supposed to happen. And again, I'll take Ella's counsel, which is, it's not goodbye, it's see you later.
Well, one final question. Something you talked about during this interview was being in LA when the decision was made for O.J. Simpson. You talked about being in Cincinnati when the riots occurred in Cincinnati after racial unrest. You're in Louisville now, and I'm not suggesting that everywhere you go there's an issue.
It's not me, right?
It's not you. I'm not suggesting that at all. But you have been in a couple different cities that have faced issues similar to what we're facing right now. Is there something that you see different this time than you did in the past couple places? And if so, what can we do different to make our city come together as a whole?
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any question that the movement is different this time than any time in my lifetime. You know, I was born in 1968, so, you know, since that time, when these issues have arisen, they have died more quickly. And so we're making progress. Don't think we're not making progress. Now, I don't know what the verdict is going to be, and I don't know what's going to happen in the Breonna Taylor situation, and I don't know that everyone's going to be happy with whatever happens. I have no idea. But the people that are protesting for equality are more diverse than ever. It's into St. Matthews and in the Highlands, and it's in the East End, and on Bardstown Road, it's half white. And it's sustaining, and I think that is different. I think what is happening in professional sports, I mean, the first day of Major League Baseball, the first game you put on, every single athlete is kneeling and they're holding a black band during the national anthem. That's a long way from where we were 2 years ago. That's a long way from Colin Kaepernick. So people are hearing, but the struggle continues. I hope that we can heal. I think we heal by you and I sitting here and having a conversation, and me having conversations with other people, and everybody talking to each other and listening and not digging in so much, and maybe not getting into social media. Can be a wonderful thing, but it can be a horrible thing.
Right.
And people, we now know we're fed things on social media that are that make us agree with that topic, specifically. But people say awful things on social media, and they judge other people how they never would in person on social media. So it's a difficult, challenging time. I'm worried about the city of Louisville. I'm worried about downtown. I'm worried about whether business comes back, and
because that directly affects attendance here as well.
Well, sure. I mean, it's not, we're not alone. I'm not crying about what's happening, and I understand there's a reason that everything has happened. But, we all want a better, more diverse society with equality for all. There's no question about that. I just don't know how the city is going to get past or get to the next step and grow and learn and be able to be a vibrant city again one day, because we're not a vibrant city right now. We've got businesses boarded up, and locals, the perception is worse than the reality. I'm here every day. I'm
Right.
downtown every single day, and I am 100% safe every single day. But I have learned that is not necessarily the perception. People
Right.
think it's not a safe place to be. And I don't know how long it's going to take to get past that perception. I think in Cincinnati it took about 5 years, and I don't know
Right.
that we've got 5 years to make this thing work.
Well, let me tell you this. I've known you since you were an anchor, my co-coach.
You were the head coach.
Well, when we were winning. When we were winning. But I just throw this out there just for anyone listening. There's going to be an election in 2022, and I know that you do well when you transition to other things. So if you ever thought about being a mayor, I know some people that may want to support you, because I know you have a vision to make things better and grow. I will say this, and I know we're about to close, but I will say this. I have been very fortunate to be in a position where I've had a show now that I've had friends come on. And, usually at the end I say some good things about people because they're my friends. But I will say this. Out of all the people we've had, I probably know you about as well, better than anyone, because we did have that relationship with one another where we could talk about not only coaching, about players, we could talk about life and how life should be, and the things that we wanted to not only teach our kids, but the players that were coming after them as well. So I wanted to say thank you for being here. I want to thank you for our friendship, And I would just say this: if there's anything I can ever do for you, I'll do, because not only because you're my friend, but because I know you're a good person, a good guy, and that you stand for something, and not just a person that will say something just to bring people in here. Everything that you're trying to do, I believe in. That's why I want to be a part of what you're doing right now. So I just want to say thank you for being on A Matter of Perspective. This is Judge Derwin Webb, thanking you for watching us, and we'll be back for another episode next time you see us. Thank you.